Hey everyone, Mr. Reichel here. I'm going to go through a little review of our first unit, unit number one, Designing for People Prosthetics. Remember, way back in the beginning, we started by introducing the unit main concepts and the statement of inquiry. And a couple of things that we were focusing on in this unit were how do we understand function and the way that things work as we're designing? How do we understand limitations and adaptations? So the unit that we explored this time really focused on designing for one purpose and then also keeping in mind the ability to adapt to several other different tasks. After we finished up our introduction, we moved into planning and things like understanding how our hand moves and how it accomplishes certain daily tasks. And then we asked you to think about some questions that we're going to focus you in onto what task you wanted to be designing for. And remember that when we design for a specific purpose or problem to solve, that we end up with a better product or better results in the end. The next step of this then was to think about how the design specifications or the way that we want our prosthetic prototype to function would look in varying levels of quality. So we asked you to set up a rubric with 4 different levels descriptors of how well it accomplished its task, how well did it function. After that, we moved into sketching so that we could take our idea and start to make it real. And we were focusing at that point on the end of the developing ideas section of the design cycle. We walked through some past year's example hands to sort of help you visualize what yours might start to take shape as. And then what we did was I gave you some examples and showed how annotating our sketches really provides the viewer or the customer, whoever we're designing for, the insight into your thinking. How is this hand going to function, or how is this product going to work? What are some of its features? What are some of its materials? And then I gave you another option here because we talked about how designing with different ideas at the beginning can sometimes help you down the road in taking one idea from one design and transferring it over to another so that you can overcome certain challenges as they come up. After that, we started building and talked about keeping in mind as builders, accomplishing a certain function, your design is probably going to have certain materials that accomplish those parts of that task. And so part of building really revolves around using materials well, using tools well, keeping in mind that we need to demonstrate certain skills in building and keeping things clean, finished, symmetrical, etc. And moving into the end of the unit here, one of the concepts that we introduced at that point was adaptability. And so we learned a little bit about what adaptability can mean, how we can evaluate our own adaptability, and ways that we can think about increasing it. We gave each person a new task to work on accomplishing in addition to the one that they had already been designing for. So there were some changes made at this point, but again, changes that had a specific purpose and hopefully maintained the first task while helping to accomplish the second task. And that can be quite challenging as a designer. So where that leaves us today then is with our unit wrap up and reflection. So your work today will take place on this Google form, and the questions are fairly straightforward. Give us some indication as to the progress you've made so far and how well you've been keeping up. Also think a little bit about those concepts and how they showed up in your work. And as you continue through the form, you're going to sort of give yourself some ratings on the work that you did. So just take a look at each of the questions and read the prompts and rate, so on and so forth. So good luck today. And as always, reach out to your teacher if we can provide any help along the way.